So welcome. Lovely to see you all. I'm Hazel Osborne, and I know some of you know me. Maybe some of you know each other. Um, Thanks for making the time to come today. We're going to have an experiential hour together, and I'm really excited to have this time with you to explore something which I've realised through the planning has been with me for a long time, which is which is the witch and the journey of the witch and the legacy of the witch and what's still within us now. So we're going to have an experiential hour together, some of which I'm going to be sharing a few slides because I'm quite a visual person. So I like to make something that people can have a look at as well. We're going to do a bit of a journey together, like a guided journey. So hopefully you're in a comfy spot. And if you're not, try and get as comfortable as possible in what you've got. And I'm not going to necessarily ask anybody to speak, but if you wanted to share, there's the chat facility along the bottom of your screen. I'm presuming everybody knows about this because you've all said that you've been on Zoom before. If you have any problems with that, then just raise your hand and we'll figure that out if you want to ask a question. There will be a bit of time at the end for any questions. And I know some people have got their cameras turned off because of their internet being a bit dodgy. Thanks, Dawn, for letting us know that. Okay, so let's kick off. I'm going to start my slides now and hopefully the tech gods will be with us. Okay. I'm just going to shut that down because it's already doing something a bit odd. Okay. Let's try that again. Of course, there was a glitch. One moment. If you want to, while you're waiting, you can let people know where you're coming from, because I think that's quite fun. If you want to, in the chat. Okay. Right, I'm coming back to you now. I've managed to find it. It was not playing ball. Aha. Okay. Can you see that? Can you give me an actual thumb if you can see that? Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So I think a lot of people have this this reaction when I mentioned that I'm interested in this work, which is why? Like, that was a really long time ago, and we've got so much going on in the world right now, which we have. But in my experience as training as a therapist and learning about ancestral trauma and how trauma is passed on, you know, this was a collective trauma that lasted for 300 years, not only for women, and 80% of the women who were killed were women, the people, for their families, for their communities. And this can stay with us. We know this now. There's so much we know about trauma now and how it weaves through family lines and DNA. So that's why, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. I'm so grateful that you're willing to explore this with me. I know some of you know me, but there's quite a lot of people on the call or the recording that don't. So just a little bit to say, you know, this is my background. I've always been a bit of a dreamer and I love a good project. And originally I trained as an artist, but I've been a therapist or working within care for alongside that journey. And Most recently, I have become a ceremonialist and a mother, which has been massive. Um, and I put these two on my kind of most recent field identify with, um, really connecting to nature as something soulful, not just inanimate. And I've always loved being in nature. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And I want to hear from you too. So come to the roundhouse and take your place here at the Witch's Hearth. I can't wait to hear how this kind of lands with you, and what kind of weaves through you, and what's been part of your journey with the ideas or the feelings around witch. So this is for you if you've maybe felt like the black sheep or a scapegoat in your family, or within the people that you've been around. If you are a deep feeling, sensitive person, an intuitive, an empath. If you have a love for the wild herbs in the natural world, or felt ostracized for your deep sensitive being. A lot of people I work with have that experience. Perhaps you've known deep within yourself, or you know that you have this aspect of yourself that you dream about things, or you see things, or you just know things. You have an affinity with plants or animals, or any combination of these. I believe we all have this aspect about ourselves, but that it's unique to us, and some people perhaps feel more deeply. And if you're one of those people, you're in the right place. Look at that. Ah, that was fun when I found that. Okay. So despite feeling shut down or rejected by others, you might have, yeah, as we say, you might still know these gifts are important to you, but maybe you've been afraid to share them, or be open about them, because you fear rejection, and that's quite a strong trigger for you. Um, Maybe you found some relationships difficult, and especially with other women in social or work situations. And I want to talk a bit more about my experiences of that later. And I really wonder about that in relation to the witch wound. Um, and we'll talk more about that. But I think, people like you, people like us, everyone really, but certainly people who feel deeply, I think have never been more needed than now in this crazy chaos that we're living through. Um, you know, Grounding ourselves through that is absolutely massive, but I think we're really needed at this time to get through and not to close down. There it goes again. Couldn't turn it off after I found it, so there we go. Right. So my story, your story. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey with the witch wound, and then I'd love it if you felt open to sharing anything about, how this is kind of resonating with you. I'm going to stop sharing for now and see my face. Hello again. So yeah, I mean, for me, as a child, I grew up in mid Wales, and you know I think when I first started my therapy training, I remember saying to in my interview, "Oh yeah, I had a great childhood. It was really idyllic. It was really brilliant. Like, lived out in the countryside." Um, and then the more I got into that, the more I realized, oh, that was missing, and I kind of had to shut that part down of myself, because that wasn't really okay. And I realized that nature was a massive support for me in terms of the attachment issues, or the things that weren't there for me with my nearest and dearest caregivers. um Being alone a lot, quite a lot, because my brother was a different age, out in nature, being with the trees and the moss. And I now realize was how I sort of soothed myself and calmed my nervous system. And there's people nodding at that. So that's interesting that you felt that too. And what I've realized through my training is that children are amazing at that. You know, whether it's a book or an animal or more than one animal, or there is another adult for short periods of time, or it's drawing or it's dancing, we find something. I feel goosebumpy saying that. We find something that supports us through what's not there. And I'm in awe of kids for that, actually. And for me, I guess I've realized that that was the beginning of my connection with nature, and something that feels really ancient that our ancestors would have been immersed in all the time. So when I look back and as I create this, I kind of realized in terms of my exploration around witch and, you know, an animist connection to the land, that that was there. And I still feel that now. When times are tough, that's my go-to. Go outside, pick some berries, or, you know, smell something, or watch the birds, and suddenly things don't feel quite so bad, you know. But as I grew, I knew that not everybody was going to be cool with me thinking crystals were magical. Not anybody was going to want to know that I liked wafting sage around, or that I got my dad to make a wand when I was 17. That wasn't the sort of thing you were going to be bringing out at the dinner table. And I felt that kind of curling in, that kind of shame of like, oh, that's not okay. Why is that not okay? And, you know, as a young teen, and on into my adulthood, really. But I went for it anyway. But I was always very careful about who I told um, my interests or shared my interests with. Um, I don't know if that's ringing any bells for you guys, but that, I think that was, you know, that feels huge in terms of relating to what the witch wound instilled, which is something around difference, perhaps, and a feeling that the intuitive, soulful, perhaps non-religious faith of some sort even needed to be shut down, that it wasn't safe, that it was weird. And you know, there were lots of texts, really, lots of judgments that sort of came at me verbally and non-verbally, and I wonder if any of these sort of resonate with you. You know, oh, you're so sensitive, you're so sensitive, like you just make it all about you, like, where are you? You're away with the fairies. Yes, I am. Oh, crystals, that's just bollocks, isn't it? Oh, it's all smells and bells. You're a yogurt weaver. Oh, you're a hippie. Oh, yeah. You're a dirty, freeloading artist. Feeling a little bit triggered right now. Those are the sorts of things that over the course of my life kind of collected, I guess. And even though there's been that part of me that's been like, you know, this is me and I don't care, I still think that, well, I did care. And so, you know, stepping over the threshold to offer this course, and also I'm going to talk to you later about my next offering, which is coming up in May, um, has been a huge rite of passage. It's been massive. I've been, yeah, it was big stuff to step over and say, yeah, let's talk about witches. You know, definitely feeling that that still has resonance. Does any of this resonate with you? I'd love to hear if any of this, you know, like when you connect to, oh, Lorraine's got a hand up. So do you want to type it in the chat, Lorraine, or would you prefer to speak? If you want to go for the chat.
Well, it was probably quicker to speak, that's all.
Yeah, go for it. So when you think of these concepts or what I've said, how does that relate to you?
Oh, exactly the same. Absolutely. And it's not until you grow older and have lots of experiences and you start to think, I know what it is now, this sensitivity, because it's a sensitivity in every way, spiritually, everything. And what I've kind of worked, I've honed my, it's a long story and I won't go into it, but there's so many things I've learned. It's unbelievable about the whole thing on the other side. But what I've realised is when my mum died, I had a very dysfunctional upbringing. She was an alcoholic because she was sensitive too, but she didn't deal with it. She drank on it. So I've learned all about her sensitivity, not through her, but through another friend, who sadly is not here anymore, who also drank on his sensitivity. So I've learned now that she's gone about her. And I know my nan was the same, her mother. So I feel like the family lineage is there. And I've got a daughter who's also very sensitive. So I'm hoping that because I've kind of woken up to it and I'm sort of like I've got the codes to sort of wake up to it, that my daughter also will too, because it's a lineage thing, isn't it? I think. And I can see the lineage. I can totally see it now. It all makes complete sense to me. Because
Mhm.
if I'm waking up to it, my daughter is going to be different even to me because she's 20 and she's way ahead of me now because she's already understanding her sensitivity, whereas my mother never went there. But I also feel like you're also sort of like you're actually, helping the lineage before as well on the other side, I feel.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. Anyway, that's it really. That's where
I think that's really common for a way that people cope, isn't it? To kind of using drugs or alcohol or other means just to shut that part of themselves down because
yeah.
overwhelming or it's shameful, and absolutely those things can get through family.
Yeah, you don't
So
have to
for
it's
sharing.
painful.
Yeah, there's so much there, isn't there?
Mm, absolutely.
So we've got a couple in a few in the chat now. Thank you, for ambient Sophie, burning incense. Yeah, and my sensitivity being a problem for sure. Thanks, Sophie. And Phoebe, yes, always about being oversensitive. Oversensitive. Yeah, totally. Phoebe and Janine, yeah, was always classed as a strange child, seeing things, feeling things, working with herbs and healing animals. Yeah, need the peace of the countryside. Yeah, totally relate to that myself. Thank you. Yeah, so let's let's go back to this and see where we are. So I just wanted to hear a bit more from you about, your journeys really alongside mine. So let's just, oh no, that's not it. Sorry, I am a bit cack-handed today. I'm going to share my screen again. So despite, can you see it? You see it. Despite all those negative texts, I went for it anyway. But it was never an easy journey, and being an artist in this country, um, all the negativity around, and just trying to kind of get by. It was always a bit of a struggle, but the soul, the soulful connection just wouldn't go away. Um, And so over the last sort of 7 years, I've been holding space this way. And it's been really amazing, actually. If I've ever been part of running a ceremony or a circle where there's people who this is really alien to, because a lot of people will really stay and participate in a way that perhaps they've been surprised that they would, and have really positive kind of experiences. So I kind of feel like this stuff is innate in us, to connect in a soulful way to each other, to speak our truths from our heart and to connect to the natural world. And some of these practices people have literally been doing, for thousands of years. And only the last, few hundred years have been um, moving away from this way of connecting. And I think there is a massive renaissance. I feel it um, all over the place now. So working with people in these kinds of ways, these are kind of themes that just come up again and again. People might say this explicitly, or it might just be there in the feel of the work, which is very much about, who am I? Is there something wrong with me? What is my purpose, and how can I reclaim who I am? Those separated parts that we've had to split off to kind of cope and survive, really. What aren't I? Why aren't I loved as I am? That should be. And why is it so hard to get close to other women? So, I'd love to hear what you feel about this, but my feeling is that, coming through a very competitive industry in the arts anyway, this, showed up a lot. But it feels to me that something of the witch wound was so disempowering to largely women, or, people with female bodies, that we felt we could only find our power in certain ways that felt very covert, and often around how good we are, how pretty we are, how attractive we are. And that in order to get ahead in, the world that is constructed around us, we need to be quite masculine. And I think that's starting to change. I think that's starting to change, but that it's still bubbling away. I mean, if you just sort of feel into that now, what do you have any thoughts or feelings around what the legacy of the witch wound might have left on our interactions with each other as women? Sophie, how do I see the chat from here? Oh, it's there. Yeah. Glad to be here. Okay. I think, is anybody answering there? Had to leave my husband, go on an island to discover who I am. I'm now a shamanic healer. Amazing, Sarah. Wow, that sounds massive. Yeah. Competition. Yes. Yeah. Mistrust. Yeah. I think it made women see each other as a threat. So we lost the female connection. God, I feel like crying reading these, to say. And community, it's huge. Yeah. Oh, Sophie's going now. Thank you so much, Sophie, for your support. Thank you. See you again. Yeah, no, I feel all of that very much so. Oh, hello. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a minute, because now that Sophie gone, of course, it's all going Pete on. This is for you. We've done all that. Okay. So yeah, I'm totally with you on all of that. And that's what I've been musing as well, is that, perhaps in the mistrust that somebody used, is, that developed through that time, something broke, or something broke between us, and we've had to, it's that saying, hide under a bushel, hide your light under a bushel. It kind of feels like that, don't shine too brightly, or you might get taken down, or there's not enough, or it's dangerous. So just wanted to explore a few things which, might be getting in the way: personal myths, misconceptions, fear, doubts, and a new reality that perhaps we can experience. So maybe one of the ways that the witch wound might show up is that it's literally dangerous to be ourselves, dangerous to be me. And I believe and I feel, and certainly in my menopausal years, that the more my self-esteem grows, that I'm all right with me, the more this is a form of protection, actually. And I care less about what other people think of me. I'm not saying I'm immune to that, because I think we're all wired for belonging as well from these ancient ancestral times, when not belonging to our tribe or group would be, the end of us. I think that's a deep part of our, fabric of our being. But the more I think I've kind of realized that I can't change people. I can't change what they think, apart from sharing how I feel. I don't have any control over what people think or say about anything, including me. But if I'm okay with me and I'm showing up for me and I'm looking after myself as much as I can, then that feels better, you know? So that's part of the work as I see it. A second way, perhaps a fear around being rejected. And again, this really links in with that feeling of belonging that, and how we're wired for that, I think. And I think there is a rocky road, when we start to reveal new parts of ourselves that are perhaps more closely aligned to who we were always destined to be, but perhaps had to hide or split off parts of ourselves or shut down because they weren't okay with the people around us, or the society around us. That when we start to bring these new parts of us, or these original parts of us out again, we might lose some people along the way, you know. There may be some people that literally just can't tolerate this new version of ourselves, and that can be quite hard, but I still think it's better for one's sense of well-being in the long run, even though that transition might have some ups and downs. And you find out who your real buddies are through these experiences. And then the third way, or a third way, because there'll be loads, but this is something that somebody actually said to me, that a life of safety is better than a life of happiness. I think that really broke my heart to hear that. But I get it. And I don't know if you've ever seen this diagram, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's like a triangle, and the bottom of the triangle is safety, and basic needs, and it kind of goes up and up and up. So if people have had really difficult times or trauma, then it wouldn't surprise me that that would be better than choosing something which feels even scarier in terms of reclaiming these parts of ourselves. But I can believe we can have both. I absolutely believe we can have both. Mm-hmm. So how can we do this? We can find out what these reductive texts are that we tell ourselves. What are the triggers and the drivers? We can explore our self-care as a necessity, and this includes strong boundaries. And that was a game changer. That is a game changer for me. It's an ongoing practice, and it's not always easy, because I think partly how I coped was being everybody's helper. I'm going to be there for you because then I feel safe, that I'm going to be liked and I'm going to be included. And again, it can get a bit uncomfortable and a bit sticky with people who are used to having you there in certain ways, family members or what have you. And when you start, putting those boundaries in, but it's just amazing how I think it's a massive part of self-esteem, having strong and firm and fair personal boundaries. deep intuitive listening to ourselves through our cycles, if you've got a menstrual cycle, or cycling with the moon. I've been doing quite a lot of work with that through Red School, which you may be aware of. And again, just that kind of connection to deep intuitive listening of your own rhythms and kind of tracking those. Like, I don't cycle, I don't bleed anymore. And unfortunately, I didn't get to this way of planning before I stopped bleeding. But excuse me. I do notice that around the different times in the moon that my mood changes, that I am kind of really quite frenetic with the full moon. And it's really interesting to plot those and to plan for them and give myself space to rest. So that's another way we can look at that. Oh, we've got a person in the waiting room. I'll let her in a minute. So developing a personal practice, you might already have one, and resources and rituals that kind of give you that support. You know, I think, again, something daily feels massive there, and sort of titrating, safe risk taking, and a bit of a fuck it approach. Yeah, maybe they think that I'm going to do it anyway. Reclaiming the excited parts of ourselves and our souls, the things that make us really light up and really, you know, feel sparky, and a soul focused and meaningful relationship with ourselves, each other, and the natural world. So that's the wish list, isn't it? If we get all that, I reckon we're doing quite well. Right, I'm just going to see if I can let Anna in now. Wait, and I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Welcome, Anna. We've been going for about 35 minutes, but please join us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are welcome. Well, actually, we're just about to head into a guided journey now. So if you want to turn your camera off, you're really welcome. Just want you to get comfy, whatever that means for you, and just take a minute. And if you want to, you can also have a journal to hand, because perhaps you might want to just write, you know, some nuggets of important things that come up for you. So get comfy, get cozy. I'm going to have a drink of water to get rid of the frog in my throat. And just see if you can just allow yourself to land whatever you've just been feeling in your body. Whatever comes to you when you engage with this word, with the concept of witch. Witch. Where do you feel that in your body? What kind of sensations or thoughts or feelings do you notice around this idea of witch? Just see if you can just allow it to be there. Whatever wants to reveal itself to you. Knowing that you've got this place of safety within you. And it might be a small place. And it might be huge. but it's a place that you can go to whenever you need to feel safe, whatever's going on around you. So just know you can do that. We're going to go back now, back to the 1500s. Just see if you can see that in your mind's eye, to be back in a village. And if no images want to arise, just see what you feel in your body, or what you notice in response to this journey. Back in the 1500s, how might it be? In a village, in simple houses. Perhaps you've got animals there. Maybe you work the land or work with the animals in some way. Maybe you've always felt connected with nature and your community, working together to forage or to bring in the harvest. And then you hear that a book has been written. Perhaps you can't read, but you hear of this book. It's called the Malleus Maleficarum, known as the Hammer of Witches. It's a witch hunter's book, which details how to identify, hunt, torture, and kill witches, damning women as weak and as easy to seduce by the devil. Whilst you're engaging with these concepts in this journey, just staying with this place of safety inside and knowing you can just dip into there anytime you need. How would it feel to know about this book? And I quote, "All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Evil women are evil because they descend from Eve. And when a woman thinks alone, she thinks evil. And thus they are easy targets for the legions of hell. As she is a liar by nature, a woman can lead men astray. And all witchcraft comes from carnal lust, which in women is insatiable. And every old woman with a wrinkled face and a furrowed brow, a hairy lip, a gobber tooth, a squint eye, and a squeaking voice or scolding tongue is not only suspected, but is pronounced a witch." So I will just let those quotes swirl around us for a minute. Feeling them. What's your heart doing right now? Your gut. What's there in your bones and your cells? Now in your mind's eye, coming back to the village, how would it be to live in this village now? How would it be to hear the whispers of witch, she's a witch, side glances, blame, fear, shame? How would it be to be a little girl in this environment? What would we learn about being a woman? Just see what's there. Don't judge it. You don't need to attach to it. Just notice. And so we're going to walk away from the village now. And we're going to walk to an ancient yew tree grove, which has been a place held sacred to our ancestors for generations upon generations. And you're going to leave the chaos of the village behind you. And you're going to go and be with those trees in the cool grove, watching the birds flying among their majestic branches. Perhaps you might like to go and lean against a tree. One of those trees that's offered a kind of sacred support for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Some yew trees grow for a very long time. And as you're sitting there with the trees, you notice there's a being next to you. And you know that this being is there to protect you, that they're with you. And this being wants you to know something. Perhaps they speak, or maybe you just know, maybe you see something. But there's a message they really want you to know. And now they want to give you something you can bring back with you. Take it with gratitude. And find some way of saying thank you. Knowing that you can connect to them in this place again, anytime you wish. And finding a way of saying goodbye. And they're gently disappearing now. And you're coming back to that place of sanctuary inside yourself, that place of safety that's always been there. and always will. And coming back, letting this experience settle into your being now. And coming back to our bodies here, sitting or lying, in contact with the chair, or the bed, and your breath, and your senses here. Sitting with each other here now. You can wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe take a nice deep breath, belly breath. And stretch. And I'd love it if you could turn your camera back on if you're able or happy to. And if you want to take just a moment to write any of that in your journal, then do. And I'd love to hear from you something about where you went in the chat if you were willing to share anything about what you experienced or felt, noticed, or were given. Anything which might relate to how you feel about which. Or if anybody wants to speak, that's also okay. And it's fine if not. These are quite big themes, I think, to come through our lineage as women, as humans. Lovely, Anna. Yeah, sounds beautiful to be in the village with the birch. Fear surfaced, yeah. Made me feel the need to hide. Yeah, totally. Feel that too, Phoebe. I noticed that it felt just like how, oh, it's clicking up, how I felt in my life, all my life, quite isolated. Yeah. Yeah. So massive, actually, without going into the whole thing. It unlocked a huge understanding and added another part of the jigsaw, deep gratitude. Oh, thank you. Blessing. So lovely to meet you. The being was a wonderful comfort. Oh, I'm so glad. I take as my own soul. Yeah. And how it's always been with me. Wow. That's really moving. Yeah. Can you get a sense of how these threads could still be with us? Back to the not what they do, not what they do. Thank you, Hazel. That was powerful. Oh, it's Kirsten. Yeah. Well, I wonder now how this will settle with you and how it will continue to kind of unlock something. Perhaps it will, you know, things will keep revealing themselves to you on how it is playing out within us. Within me, I think the fear of really showing this part of myself, which I'm sharing now, it has been my experience of the witch wound. Um, Feeling very safe, Julie. Stood with a staff in hand. Oh, lovely. Powerful. Vivid feelings in the village, yeah. Nature's supporting all my being because of the fears and others and the terrible actions and the gift of the seed. Beautiful. Yeah. I heard a guy called, I hope I get his name right, Bayo Akamalafi, who's a Nigerian academic and Yoruba, which is also a very animist focused belief system, speaking on a podcast recently. And he said that he thinks that the reason that Europeans were able to treat people, black and brown people, in the ways that we did was because we'd done that to our own people. And I felt massively moved by that. And sort of thinking of the Dark Ages and the plague and then the witch trials and, you know, just how it's been in the pandemic and how impactful that's been. Um, you know, it kind of makes sense to me. So thank you. Thank you for going on this journey with me. And thank you for being here. I hope that it hasn't left you with too much of the difficult feelings, because at the end of the day, we did survive. We have survived. And I believe that these parts of ourselves have always been there. And although there were things that have been lost, that they are coming back now. And, you know, all this movement towards even glamping, being outside, sitting around a fire, foraging, coming back to a more soulful connection to ourselves is all part of this renaissance, I think. Um, so just before we end, I just want to tell you about what I'm doing next in case anybody is interested. And I'm going to be sending you this this recording as well. So I'm just going to put this up now and hopefully it's going to fill the screen. So there's an incredible retreat centre in Snowdonia in Wales called Caimabon. It's been a retreat centre for 40 years. And I'm going to be running a retreat there to explore the witch wound and how we can reclaim witch from the 12th to the 14th of May this year. That is the amazing gateway that you literally go through. There's been so much work gone on there. You can kind of feel it, and literally driving down, you feel like you're already going to another place. It's got 200 acres of incredible woodland and waterfalls, and it is the village really, and it takes you there in no time at all. So in case you're interested, or anybody you think might be interested in this work, I've got an early bird offer which ends on the 25th, so that's in 5 days time, which is $550. That's all inclusive, and it goes up to the full price of $650 after that, and there is a payment plan available. And for the first 4 people who sign up, I'm offering an integration session after the retreat. There's a couple of testimonials from people that I've worked with before, just talking about how it is. Particularly, I really, even though I think this theme is collective, I don't think it's just about women or cis female people at all. I really wanted this to be about women, um, and sisterhood and reclaiming this part of ourselves. We're going to be using ritual. We're going to be sitting in the roundhouse, sitting in circle. We're going to be using some psychotherapeutic and arts therapeutic processes to really get into some of the nub of our own journeys, not only with the witch wound, but with our own psychologies and, parts of ourselves that we have had to put aside. We're going to be working foraging, and we're going to be doing vision work on the land. There's wild swimming there, really beautiful views of Snowdon. I mean, it's just exactly what I've always wanted. So it's been amazing to find it. If you are thinking about it and unsure, I offer a free 20-minute call to have a look. You can also have a look at my website, which is Hazel Osborne without the U, counsellor.com, and click retreat, or go to the bookings page and sign up for a 20-minute call. Give me an email. Yeah, if you, as I say, if you know anybody who you think might be interested, I'd be really grateful if you wanted to share that. And if you want to stay now and have any questions, that would also be absolutely fine. We've come up to our hour now, so if you need to go, please do. And thank you so much for coming. But if anybody wants to stay for another 5-10 minutes with any questions or any reflections on any of this, then you'd be very welcome. So